I hate a universal form of morals and ethics, and subset from that, I hate relativism, or the way I've heard relativism be used. It's all relative, or it's okay, or just what does tolerance really mean? And it's messy, of course, up in here, and that's just something I've been thinking about. Relativism, or tolerance, what people mean, it's okay if I cause harm and you just have to put up with harm because my morals are different than yours. I'm different than you, and that's okay, but I can cause harm and you can't stop me. And what does accountability look like? What does justice look like? Or what does it mean to be accountable in a real relationship? I see people cause harm, and well, they cause me harm. The way I handle it is through exile, exiling them from my life, of course. I'm not sending anybody out of the country. I exile them from my life if they're causing too much harm, and I have enough people to where I can do that. And I know my balance of who I can trust to repair their harm and take accountability, and what my tolerance is for speaking my truth and seeing if people want any piece of that. And I like to think in pragmatics. What is a pragmatic truth? In the sense of like what is useful, what helps me survive in my accountability. In my accountability, if I do harm, I take accountability by doing good and continuing to do good. And that is what my accountability looks like. It looks more rehabilitative than it does punitive, which means causing harm. If I cause harm, I don't cause myself more harm. I learn to do good and I keep doing good and I do it better. And that's the same sort of attitude some of the people around me have, sure. And this difference between plural truths and no truths, I don't know. I think I'm circling like the what does it mean to be around conservatives, because they have a different sort of truth, but when they band together, they hurt people. So what does it mean to go beyond that or build beyond that? And that is such a bigger question than I thought of, because I have a framework right here of questions I like to explore as I riff. But as I'm talking, I keep coming back to that in my mind. That that's the conservative and others, and how do we live together, or how do we live together with white supremacy? And that's really baffling me because I want to answer that question and deviate from this. I want to answer and be like, okay, I've heard some people say they want a seat at the table, and they're allowed that. That's their truth. And I've heard people say they want to build a better table. Uh, that's also a truth. And how do we endure to the point where we can survive and do that when people want to get rid of people like me, or people in my family, or people in my queer home that I have? Like, my responsibility is to protect them and for us to grow and for us to build in the face of adversity. I've been reading Octavia Butler's Parable series, and that's a core theme I'm getting, is just continue to build what you can. And that's my responsibility. And that is my truth. That's why I'm recording all these videos. That's why I have a Patreon and a TikTok with over 1,000 TikToks by now. I have that. And then how do I protect that? I protect it in the ways I can that make most pragmatic sense, which is different for everybody. Sometimes when we protect things, it doesn't do any good. And you do that by measuring the effects downstream. Is the protection working? If it is, keep it up. And if it's not, change it. My protection is working, so I will keep it up. And if it was a different situation, we would come up with something different. So protection looks like doing what works. It looks pragmatic, and it's different for everybody. Some people can work in a corporate job, and that's monetary protection for them. Sure. And what is our responsibility to give care to others in that point? Oh, kitties. Kitties are rambunctious. Is it my job to translate my morals and ethics for them? No. If they want to come learn, I teach people who come and learn. But it's not my job to argue or debate. I've seen people do a debate, and I think that's part of their truth, and they can do whatever they want. It's not mine, so I will do whatever I want. So if you like what I've had to say, like, follow, subscribe, and it doesn't get better. It only gets messier in the rest of my content. So if you like this sort of mess, check out the rest of my work on Patreon.